Well, it was quietly announced by the province that the coal moratorium has been lifted along the Eastern Slopes. And I guess that news has caught a lot of people off guard, given that, well, we haven't really seen a new coal policy that was supposed to be introduced. And yet we're still moving ahead with, I guess, some active development. Can't think of a better person to talk about this issue than Lorne Fitch. Lorne, I guess at the 10,000 foot level, what's your initial response? Although I don't think I'm going to be surprised by it.
No, you won't be, Michael. Well, I think I share with a lot of people, in fact, the majority of Albertans, disappointment and frustration, and I believe a great deal of anger with the most recent flip-flopping on coal, this time by the Minister of Energy, Brian Jean. And I would say we really don't have a policy yet. We're still under the auspices of the Lougheed government's 1976 coal policy. And so the when this started just a few years ago with frankly, I think the then UCP government under Jason Kenney literally going out and advertising coal to the world, particularly to a lot of Australian coal firms, it caught a lot of people off guard because, with the exception of the mines in the coal branch in the McLeod River drainage, there hadn't been much activity elsewhere. And that started, I think, a groundswell of concern on the part of Albertans. And the then UCP government heard the concerns of Albertans, and the Minister of Energy then, Sonia Savage, put the moratorium on coal development and exploration. Unfortunately, after a lot of new exploration roads had been built, and which are still there bleeding sediment into trout streams in the Eastern Slopes. And so that led then to Sonia Savage convening the Coal Policy Review Committee, which was an objective, arm's length group of people who engaged in probably what has been the biggest public engagement process in Alberta's history over coal. They came back after 9 months of talking to thousands of Albertans with recommendations to the government for a new coal policy. The cabinet of the day accepted that, and there it sits gathering dust while Brian Jean tinkers around the edges with it.
It kind of, if there's an excuse given, it's one of, well, we're going to be sued and it could cost us $15 billion in lawsuits, according to the province, as these coal companies are alleging that they sank tons of money into potential mine developments a couple of years ago. Does that hold water with you?
Well, there's two things about this, Michael. One is, in a legal battle, the first thing a lawyer will tell you, you don't run away from the fight. And that's essentially what Brian Jean and the Premier are alleging, is that they're protecting us from these lawsuits. Well, let the court decide. And in fact, there are precedents abounding that help you understand that this is not a slam dunk for the coal companies. In fact, not too many years ago, in the late 90s, the then progressive conservative government advertised for proposals for four-season developments. Deja vu, anyone? And a consortium came through with a proposal for Mount Sparrowhawk in the Spray Valley, and did all of their work, I guess. And then the province decided, no, we don't want a four-season development there. We're going to make it into Spray Valley Provincial Park. Well, the company sued in court and lost. And so this is not something that I think we should be, wetting the bed at night over that we're going to be out of pocket $15 billion. I think the other thing is, and I just read this morning, these changes that Brian Jean has made, these tinkerings, aren't going to stop from the coal companies pursuing these legal cases anyway. And so it just seems to be just a failure to understand, well, first of all, basic legal process, and second of all, a failure to listen to Albertans.
There is, I guess, maybe those that are a little more bullish on coal development might turn around and say, well, there's still the environmental processes that these companies will have to adhere to before any new or active mines get going. Do you have faith in that those environmental requirements could delay or stop or otherwise have a more positive effect?
Well, I'll refer you to the first go around for coal mine development on Grassy Mountain, just north of Blairmore in the Crowsnest Pass. It went through a joint federal provincial panel, a joint review panel hearing, and I think much to the surprise of many of us, the joint review panel said this mine makes no sense from a social, economic, health, or environmental standpoint. Well, Brian Jean, the Minister of Energy, still thinks it's a live project. It's an advanced coal project, and I don't know how you would define it other than it must be a zombie project that never dies. It keeps coming back time and time again, and so one of my concerns is the regulator, the Alberta Energy Regulator, uh, although ostensibly at arm's length, actually need to be beyond arm's length because Brian Jean seems to still be the puppeteer pulling the strings. And so it's hard to have faith in the regulator when you see that happening. And the other thing is that the joint review panel, because it was a joint federal provincial panel, allowed many more people and organizations with concerns to provide evidence. If there's no federal presence, the Alberta Energy Regulator can say, you don't have standing here because you don't have an economic interest or you're not a next door neighbor. And they could avoid much of the testimony that would help them understand that these mine developments cannot fly for a whole variety of reasons, and certainly environmental.
Lorne, I guess there is a human side of this, and that's upstream, and that's the jobs that obviously are associated with mining activity and that type of thing. And it's hard to say, well, our requirements of a clean environment take precedent over jobs. Where do you wash out on that topic? I mean, it seems like and I don't know. I'm making an assumption here that there are people currently gainfully employed in the coal industry as it stands today. And if there is a massive increase in terms of the activity, where number one, where do we get people to fill those jobs, and on and on and on. So
Well, again, I think the your phrase, "Where do I wash out on this?" it is a good one because I'm a downstream water drinker, and the impact of coal mining on water quality downstream is not mythical. It's not a fairy tale. It's a real problem. And in southern Alberta, as an example, we have a multi-billion-dollar food processing industry that's at risk if water quality suffers. Now, on the other side, I do have sympathy for the Crowsnest Pass and the economy of it. But on the other side of the coin, other coal mining communities have resurrected themselves in a variety of different ways that don't involve a boom and bust economy, what a coal mine is. Um, the projections for the original mine were 25 years. these are things that are based on, what happens tomorrow determines how long the mine will be active. And then what happens? If you put your stake solely in a coal mine and avoid the opportunity to shift your community to something else, and I must say, the Crow's Nest Pass, for example, has abundant resources to shift it to something else. The frustration is that the current council has not seen fit to look at what those other opportunities are. They're there, and I think that that would provide a much longer term sustainable economy for that community than simply staking it all on one thing, which is a coal mine, which will be there today and perhaps gone tomorrow.
Um, could I press you for what you feel that those alternatives could be?
Well, I think the first one is tourism. I think that there's already a latent tourism industry developing in the Crow's Nest Pass based on scenery and experiences, fish and wildlife populations, uh, biking, hiking, cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, and so forth. I think the other thing is that the Crow's Nest Pass is one of the major passes through the Rocky Mountains into BC. And so it can capture people traveling through if it had some amenity values that could attract them to stay there. The other thing too is that there's other things that may be available. Medical facilities, as an example, the opportunity to create digital creative jobs in the Crow's Nest Pass based on the fact that it's a lovely environment in which to live. This is what attracts people to take their businesses to places is the beauty, the scenic quality, the fish and the wildlife, the water quality of the places where they choose to make their businesses work. If you've got a bunch of coal spoil on the banks and a big hole in the mountain, it may not be the most attractive place to get people to think about moving to create their own businesses.
We're talking about almost 2,000 square kilometers of potential mine operations. If that were to, and I don't know, if that all happens at once, does it happen? One mine works for, as you say, 25 years, reclamation projects are put on it, and then the next mine starts. But if it were to start at once, are we on the doorstep of just there's no coming back from it?
There's no coming back from it. You can't blow the top off a mountain and wrest the coal out from underneath and allow the overburden to leach selenium and a toxic brew of other chemicals into the water and expect that at the end of that, you're going to have anything that resembles what you had at the beginning. The other thing is that coal is a thirsty business. It takes a lot of water. We're already in a water short portion of the province in southern Alberta. The prospect of using what short supplies of water we have for washing coal, goes against the grain of all of the food producing and food processing industry that has developed downstream. To say nothing of the fish populations that are struggling, particularly our native bull trout, our native cutthroat trout in those watersheds, that will be left quite literally high and dry.
There is obviously so much more to get into this, and unfortunately, I think you and I are going to have another conversation down the road, Lorne. But for the time being, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for your insights on this, and as they say, to be continued.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you about this and look forward to other opportunities.